Welcome back to New Hyrule Space Program. This is episode 6, and I'm doing things a little bit differently. The whole episode will be fast speed. As you can see, I'm building very quickly, and that's because I have sped up the footage. The goal here is to rescue the Kerbals that were stranded in orbit in episode 5, and we're also looking to see if we can do a little other stuff with the contracts. But what I'm doing here is reusing H10, and I'm gonna see if I can, rework it to be usable for the task. Whether that will be the case or not, who knows? Looks like I'm trying to get some navigation and control, which will be very important, having that control. The RCS thrusters are actually very important, so it's not good that I didn't put them on. Very quickly targeted that spacecraft that's trapped in orbit, and this launch doesn't turn out super well because, well, there you go. So I decide, okay, let's reevaluate this. Let's put the thrusters really far down instead so that they don't fly off and kill half the rocket. The center of lift is kind of high, but it's not really that important. So we're trying again. Trying to do some semblance of a gravity turn. And then I turn it and release the Kraken. There we go. And kill the engine. So let's try again. Let's put them on the sides. So that way, if they kill an engine, they kill a solid rocket booster and not the main engine. Okay, trying this again. Very fittingly titled H10. It kind of looks like an H if you squint and punch yourself in the face a couple times. Okay, kind of a wibbly-wobbly rocket, but it'll get the job done, hopefully. Now, this isn't the final rocket that I use, because here's the thing. I can't use this specific rocket to rescue the Kerbals that are stuck in orbit, because A, there's only room for one Kerbal in this rocket, and 2, tourists can't leave their capsule. They need to stay in the capsule the whole time. So I would need to either dock with the spacecraft, which I can't do because I don't have the Grabo Claw, or build another claw or something that can nudge the spacecraft. So what I ultimately try to do with this spaceship is test the maneuver to see if I can actually get to them. And once I get to them, I'm going to try to nudge them with this spacecraft. Spoilers, it doesn't turn out super well, but it's a great demonstration of what rendezvous is like. Just trying to get as close as possible to that spaceship. And then nudging it. So you'll need RCS fuel, and I just don't have it on this thing. It's a Fool's Errand, H10. Fool's Errand. When I first started playing Kerbal Space Program, Rendezvous was incredibly difficult. I just could not figure out how to do it, and it finally clicked for me. Not quite sure what made it click, but it's one of those things that sometimes you're confused and you don't know how something works, and you just keep trying, and something will just click. I think they call that the zone of proximal development. It's this big, complicated, stupid thing. But confusion is essentially a sign that you're almost there. You just need a little bit of a push. And sometimes you can resolve that confusion by getting help from someone else, and then they pull you through to the other end of the zone of proximal development, or you look something up so that you know what you're doing. So confusion, it can be frustrating, and the thing is, both confusion and frustration, they have an end result. And that end result is you figuring it out, whatever it is. Now, the thing is, I don't think I have enough delta V on this rocket to actually slow down and circularize the orbit. I might. Oh yeah, I guess I do, yeah. I always forget that the farther you are away from a celestial body, the easier it is to maneuver. So with this, I'm just sort of arranging everything to be as perfect as possible. So those purple, the orange ones are the first time that I get close to the spaceship, and then the purple ones are the second time. So I'm just adjusting, checking, adjusting, checking, adjusting, checking to see if either one of those gets close to the spaceship. And I try to get within a kilometer, and then I can sort of adjust. The problem is, really need RCS fuel. You can do rendezvouses. You can do a rendezvous with just the main engine, like I'm trying to do here, but it won't turn out super well, as you'll see. But it's still a good proof of concept. I kind of like showing you this, even though it's kind of short-sighted to not have setup in place to actually properly deal with this rocket. It shows that I know what I'm doing with this game, more or less. Like, once I'm in orbit, there's no trouble. Like, I can rendezvous till the cows come home, and I can land on the moon easy peasy, which you'll see in episode 7. So definitely check episode 7 when it comes out. But don't leave episode 6. I know this first part is a little not super interesting, but the second part is actually kind of fun. So this first part is sort of showing you how the rendezvous ends up getting set up, and that I do get pretty darn close to this rocket, but I discover some errors in my previous judgment and some issues with my plan. As you can see, my connection is about 100 meters, which I overshot, so now it's 200 meters. So I'm trying to rendezvous by just using the main engine. It is incredibly difficult. RCS is far easier, but I was trying to save on weight. And I think what I'm going to try to do here is decouple to help with speed, so that way the hourglass slows down a little bit. Okay, there it is. I'm trying to orient it in a way that I can use H10 to push on it. And H10 is quickly approaching. Yeah, with rendezvous, you just have to be really, really cautious. There's at the bottom, there's that nav ball. You can see the pink sort of circle and the yellow prograde marker that has the 3 sticks. Basically trying to get the sticks to align with the holes in the circle. And I do that, and I actually run into that hourglass. But the problem is, wasn't good enough. I couldn't reorient myself. So what I'm doing here is I'm going to use different parts. I have a contract that has this airstream protection shell, which is actually super helpful. So I built another rocket very similar to H10, and it has that airstream protection shell on it. And you'll see what's inside of there. It's a bit of a surprise. So I built a very similar rocket to H10 using some experimental parts. And solid rocket boosters are away. We are approaching our gravity turn. Getting into orbit should be pretty easy with that big globule on top. And the main focus of this episode is to rescue those Kerbals that are stranded in orbit. Next episode, we'll be getting contracts and building our way toward landing on the moon. Once I land on the moon, I'm probably going to put the series on hiatus. I am going to put the series on hiatus. My main project, Relics of Hyrule, is coming up on a big release, and I want to fix it. So, you can see I'm revealing the thing. I have a big claw at the end of this, and there was still some fairing stuck to it, so I tried spinning. That's a good trick. And we have this big claw that should be able to grab on, or at least latch on, to the hourglass. Anyway, as I was saying, I want to finish Relics of Hyrule version 6.6, and New Hyrule Space Program. It's fun, but it is a lot of work making these episodes. I have to record the footage, render it out, and then do this voiceover, and it's not super convenient, and unfortunately, they don't get a lot of views. And I know it's just... I've never been about views. I don't care about that kind of thing. But... And I know people are enjoying this series, but I need to put my efforts in things that get some sort of return. Relics of Hyrule gets a huge return, and Relics of Hyrule the series gets a sort of a return. I'm sort of reevaluating Relics of Hyrule the series too, because the videos that get a lot of views are like tutorials and teasers and things. So I'm thinking about that. It's not relevant to this video, just so you know where the channel is going. And if you've really liked this series, I don't want to say that it's going away forever. I'm just saying that once I land on the moon, it's probably going to be a hiatus, and that's any way that I land on the moon, whether it's a return trip or not. It's just any way that I land on the moon, there's going to be a bit of a hiatus for the series. Okay, so we're in a path that can get us to a rendezvous-ish with the stranded spacecraft. I have some monopropellant on this spaceship. Not much, but enough that I should be able to use it to get into position. So I'm orienting the little circles, I'm orienting the orbits so that if I do the right kind of burn at the right time, I can just line everything up. And it looks like the purple triangles are going to line me up really, really well with the hourglass that's stranded in space, H9. So we're almost there, really. We're extremely close. So I just need to bleed off this speed so that the target and I are roughly the same speed. And by that I mean 0. So the easiest way to do rendezvous in Kerbal Space Program is set up an orbit, like 100 meters above, or 100 kilometers above the surface, and then get it set up so you can line up those little indicators. Excuse me. The pink one and the yellow one. The pink one tells you where you're going. No, the pink one tells you where the target is, and the yellow one shows you where you're going. And so if you're aiming those correctly, then you can line it up and go and interact with the target. So once I figured that out, rendezvous was easy as pie. And then likewise, there's the retrograde marker, which is more triangular and has the X in the middle. That's the opposite of where you're going. That's where you're going away from. And then there's a Y-shaped target, which is like, I'm not quite sure. I guess I'm not quite sure what the Y target is the opposite. I guess the pink circle with the dot is like a prograde target. Like the target is in front of you, and this is where it is in front of you, and then the Y shape is the target. This is where it is behind you. That makes sense. So once you figure that out, you can line it up pretty easily. And you can see I'm getting really, really close here. Within 100 meters, and I can see H9. I think it was H9. And now I can jump over to the spacecraft, orient it so that I'm ready to get captured by H11. The tricky thing here is using the monopropellant properly. I ran out of electric charge, so I can't waste the propellant too much. I can use SAS, which is, the targeting computer essentially, to stabilize myself, but I won't be able to use the reaction wheels. So I need to be very careful, very careful, very careful, and miss. Oh, no, maybe not. Oh, this was so tough because I didn't have electric charge anymore. So it starts getting away from me, but I can quickly bleed off some of that speed and try to reorient it. And you can see my monopropellant is draining quickly, so I need to be very careful with how I'm maneuvering here. This is like nail biting right here. Okay, so I finally get it into a position where it's on a collision course and it's going right into the claws. There we go. And we've pushed it into an orbit where the periapsis is under like 40 kilometers. And so now we're at that point. And H11 is re-entering the atmosphere. H9 is going to continue orbiting. I'm going to separate it and get rid of the claw. But here's a problem. Whoa. First of all, the camera goes nuts. But second of all, there's no parachutes on this thing, which is not great. Fortunately, Jebediah Kerman has a parachute on him. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to ditch the capsule. Once it stops burning from re-entry, we're going to ditch the capsule, and he's going to fly back to the surface with his own personal parachute. And I just kept checking H9 to make sure that it wasn't disappearing. Okay, so he's good. He's gonna EVA and he's gonna fly back home. So he has his parachute out, and he has to go down from 200 meters per second to about 5. Fortunately, his parachute will do the job. There we go. Got a good screenshot there. Got an even better screenshot. And I want it to open as soon as possible because I don't want him to run any risk of running into the water and dying. So every so often you can see the top of the parachute. It has the really nice Triforce and Loftwing, the Hylian crest on it. Anyway, so I sped the footage way up because this is really slow getting back to Kerbal this way. So he's just going on his merry way. He's getting there. He's about 1,000 meters from the surface. And you can see the nav ball is set to surface now. If it was set to orbit, it wouldn't be as helpful. I need to know surface speed. And I'm sort of making him aim up because I don't want him to be 20 meters per second. I want him to be lower. And he's almost there. So now I'm going to keep kicking him up until he gets around 5 to 7 meters per second. There we go. He's almost there. And oof. He landed around 10, 12. But he's okay. So Jebediah Kerman is safe. And he is home. But now we need to get H9 back home, which is the whole point of this. They have parachutes, so we're okay. You may also notice that the reputation was negative there, and you can see the reputation is really bad. I had to tank my reputation to get a new bunch of money. So I just tanked my reputation. Doesn't really affect the quality of the contracts very much, but I just wanted to make sure that I would be good in terms of money. Okay, so we're going to check on H9. Their periapsis should be good, and we're going to sort of warp them a little bit until they get to a point that's good, where they can go on a trajectory home. They have 2 parachutes, so both Valentina and Tramin Kerman should be good. There we are. Good old hourglass. And they're coming home. They have a heat shield and everything, so this will be another happy landing. Got a little bit of science, last-ditch science at the end there. You can see the moon there. That's still one of my favorite things. I just love watching re-entry like that. I love that, the flames on the sides of the capsule. So that was the first pass. We're going to do another pass. That sort of aerobraked it and brought its apoapsis down considerably, but we need to do another pass, and this should bring us within the atmosphere. So we sort of skipped off the atmosphere first, but now we need to reorient properly. Fun fact, Apollo 13, which this mission is somewhat similar to, not really. Apollo 13, they had to bring themselves home. Apollo 13 ran the risk of skipping off the atmosphere, but fortunately they were able to do it and get in that butter zone, and they didn't. It wasn't a catastrophe. Apollo 13 is just an incredible story. Absolutely incredible. Alright, there we are. We have those 2 parachutes open. And we are landing in the highlands of Kerbin, which is okay. Heat shield is blackened to a crisp, but we are safely home.